Welcome to Building Resilience, the podcast where faith and leadership intersect to explore the true meaning of resilience. My name is Jose Pereira, and I am thrilled to launch this journey with you.
Welcome everybody to the Building Resilience Show. Today I have a wonderful guest here. Her name is Janna Willoughby-Lohr. I'm pronouncing okay?
Willoughby-Lohr, yeah.
Willoughby-Lohr, okay. Janna has an incredible story that I'm going to share with you guys. My show is related to people have gone through some things in life, but they have built resilience. They have overcome the adversity and they have thrived. So with no further ado, I'm going to give the mic to Janna. Take your mic, Janna.
Thank you, Jose, for having me. So just really brief intro. My name is Janna Willoughby-Lohr, and I own a company that's called Papercraft Miracles, and it's an eco-friendly handmade paper art company. And we make magical things out of paper that make people happy. And the story of how and why I do what I do is a lot, and it started a really long time ago. When I initially went away to college, I was there to be a poet, and I was there on a creative writing scholarship, but I realized that they didn't have a creative writing major, and I didn't want to be an English professor, so I started looking through the course catalog to see what else they had. And they had an entire book arts department to learn how to bind books and make paper. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. So I signed up for all those classes. And at the end of that year, I met with my college advisor and I said, hey, these are all the classes I took. What major am I working toward? And he said, those are all elective, so nothing. And I was like, oh no, like, what am I supposed to do? I'm here on a scholarship and I can't do 5 years because it's a long time ago. You couldn't take unlimited student loans back then. And he said, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I want to be an artist and I don't want to be broke. How do I do that? And
well, Taylor Swift is not broke.
Right? I do not want to be broke. But he said, you should do that as your major. And long story short, they had an integrative studies major there. And I made up my own major and I put entrepreneurial business and creative art together as one course of study and spent the rest of my time in college learning how to make and sell art. Wow. And figuring out what's the difference between artists who are successful and artists who are not. And so while in the middle of doing all of that, 3 weeks into my junior year, my mom passed away. And I was going to school 900 miles away from home, and she didn't have a will, which makes it very difficult. And I ended up taking the Greyhound bus back and forth from North Carolina to Buffalo, New York, where I'm from, to go to court and meet with lawyers and all this stuff while still going to school full time. And at the end of that semester, came home for winter break, met with a lot of lawyers, got a bunch of stuff together, kind of worked on my own mental health, emotional health, and sort of put myself back together and realized that while quitting school and moving back home probably would have been technically easier to do, that I knew my mom would never want me to give up on my dream of being a creative professional and to actually be able to do that as my career. And she had helped me get the scholarship. She had found the school for me, and I knew that I couldn't quit. She would be so pissed. So I decided to go back to school for the next semester, arrived on Saturday afternoon, new semester supposed to start on Monday, went to sleep in the dorm, woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning and the dorm is on fire.
Wow. How were you? How old were you by the time?
20.
20. Okay.
Yeah,
and you were single, or you had some siblings?
I have many siblings,
Okay.
but I only have one other brother from the same mom. So my brother and I, he was 23 at the time. We inherited the house together, and he was back in Buffalo in the house.
Wow.
So wake up, the dorm's on fire on my mom's birthday. Right? I know. It's terrible.
Wow.
And I mean, I was in it. I was on fire. I mean, like watched it burn to the ground. It took 4 hours, toast, the whole thing, gone. All my journals from my whole life, all of my artwork, all of my musical instruments. I mean, everything.
All the memories. What
Yeah.
about insurance in the house?
So the school had insurance for the dorm, and it was really wild because I they actually cut my financial aid from my senior year because I couldn't put my mom on the form anymore because she was dead. So I actually had to use all of my insurance money to pay for my last year of school because since you couldn't just take any loans you wanted then, I didn't qualify to take enough loans to cover that. So if my dorm hadn't burned, I never would have finished college either. It's
Wow, what a
crazy.
crazy story.
Yeah, but in the wake of all of that grief and that trauma, I was still doing my same major and learning about, what makes artists successful compared to artists who are not successful. And it's their ability to work with people. It's social work, right?
Wow.
So because I was so traumatized and full of grief and trying to figure out how to come back to life after this, um, I started thinking about how can I make art to tell people these stories and to tell people about my mom and to teach people the things that I had learned about surviving this fire, where I realized that yeah, I lost all this stuff, but it's just stuff and it didn't matter. It didn't, not having material things didn't make me an unsuccessful person. And it changed the way that I look at material items. It changed the way that I prioritize what I spend my time on and what I spend my money on. I was like, oh, I would much rather spend any money I have on, having experiences with other people and sharing things with other people than buying stuff. And I just really quickly became the kind of person that was like, if you're going to have stuff, the stuff should matter to you.
I always talk that when you go to a extreme situation in life, all your priorities change. And so now you're looking at life in a different way. What has the faith? Where is the faith in all this journey that you're having?
I mean, my mom was a really spiritual, very religious, but not pushy about it kind of person. And she used to tell us all the time, you remember that sermon at church? And she would come home from church and she would pull out several different religious books and she would open them all up and she would say, "Look, it's the same story, they just changed the names." Right?
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
like, all religions have the same basic tenets to them. Be kind to other people, take care of each other.
Mhm,
That's it.
mhm.
Right? And so, I knew that having the fire happen on her birthday was not a coincidence. She was sending that to me for a reason. And she was the kind of person who was living in that trauma response of scarcity mindset. And she kept a lot of relatively useless things because she's like, I might need that someday. And we ended up living in a hoarder house as a kid because our house was just overrun with all this stuff that she could not get rid of. So for me to have all of my stuff literally burn up into ashes and disappear on her birthday, after the first birthday she would have had after she died. And this is all within 4 months of all this happened.
What you were thinking when that was happening in her birthday? What was your thoughts?
Well, I was thinking that she would have been 55, and 5 has always been my lucky number.
Okay.
So I was like, well, there's got to be at least 2 lucky things that are coming out of this somehow, right? One was really obvious. Me and everyone else who was in that building got out alive, which is amazing for 100 drunk college students in the middle of the night. But the other thing, it took me about 3 days to realize it. And 3 days after the fire, I looked at my roommate and I said, dude, all of our shit burnt up. And I started laughing and she started laughing. And it was suddenly so obvious that the stuff doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Stuff doesn't define who you are at all. And it just changed all of my priorities about life. I was like, life is super short and I am going to go into the art studio and I'm going to try to convey this feeling of, you know, it's not about the things you have. Success is not about your things. It's about how you affect change in other people.
Correct.
It's
Correct.
about how you relate to the world. And I started making all of this art um, about these experiences. And I started doing these little show and tell events where I would show people and these books that I was making and read them the stories, and then they would cry.
So
And
for you, that the pivotal moment was after the fire, that you made something that I always talk, that change in the mindset. So tell to the audience a little bit, how was that journey? How was your the moment that you said, okay, this is not gonna stop me. I'm gonna do what today you are doing.
Yeah, I mean, it was after doing some of those show and tell events when people would come up to me crying and saying, "I'm not the same person that I was before I saw that artwork, before you told me that story. I think differently about myself. I am gonna change my major, or I'm gonna go after that thing that I love that other people told me was stupid, or whatever." And realizing that me dealing with my own grief and trauma in a way that helped me was awesome, but sharing that with other people had the ability to change the world. And that's why I called my business Papercraft Miracles, because it saved me when I literally had nothing. And so I have been making and sharing paper art with the world in one capacity or another for over 20 years because of it.
20 years. Wow, wow. Incredible story. And love what you're doing, because you transform your grief in a purpose. And that's what this show talks about, how the people can convert things in their purpose, in their why. So talk a little bit about what is your why today.
I mean, my main why is um, because there's so many people who are afraid to go after the things that they love. So many people are not only afraid of failure, but they're afraid of success. They don't know what that means. They don't want to deal with the pressure of having other people judge them or tell them that their ideas are no good or to not believe in them. And I have found that me just doing my own thing, making my own art and sharing it with the world every single day inspires someone else to go after the things that they dream about. Like all the some days. I'm like, don't wait until someday, because someday is not guaranteed for anyone. And so my why is that, I know how short life is. I know that it can disappear in a second. But I also know that one single interaction or one single conversation can change the way that somebody thinks or feels about themselves for the rest of their lives. And so, my mission in life is to affect positive change in the world. And I like to do it as often and as intentionally as possible. And yeah, that's my jam.
So in a nutshell, what do you think should be your legacy when you're not longer here?
I hope people continue to tell my stories because I've had a lot of really wild things happen to me that, are not a coincidence. And, things like, my dorm burning to the ground on my mom's birthday.
I always talk about that divine connections. There are no coincidences. There are divine connections.
Yeah. But I have a lot of those. It runs in my family to be really deeply connected to the spiritual world like that. And, I believe in weird shit. Weird shit happens, and it happens to me all the time. And for me, like, I hope to inspire people to continue to believe in the magic, because when you're alive on this planet, yeah, I mean, all you honestly know is that you have yourself right now. But I know that energy's never created or destroyed. It changes from one form to the next to the next. And all the energy that's making me live right now is all energy that made all of our ancestors live. It makes all of the plants and the flowers and the sky. Like it's all the same.
Yeah.
It's all the same. And when you really truly see the energy that has been given into you, and thinking about, all of the magical ways that energy has combined and recombined, and the lessons that come along with it, whether you know it or not. Being part of the collective consciousness of the entire universe. Not to get like real deep on it, but when you really see that and feel that every single day, I hope people keep finding the magic and using it to fight for justice and fight for equality around the world, because how could you hurt someone else? Because that's you.
Yeah, correct. Is there a book? Is there a book is there a book in your story in the make?
I am currently writing a memoir about my crazy life. I've had a lot of people say to me, like, "Oh my God, you need to write a book. This life is crazy." Since I was in kindergarten, actually, people have been telling me to start writing a book since I was 5. And my mom, having my mom pass away was obviously, huge and pivotal in my life because I was really young when it happened. But my dad passed away at the end of 2023. And learning about his life and his legacy and the ways that he changed the scientific world, which is like a whole nother episode. But really, really learning about the ways that pursuing your dreams can actually change the entire world, and the impact that he had on all of his students who have gone on to make other scientific discoveries and things like that. Like what you can truly do with one full life when you're not afraid to go after the things that other people say is not possible.
Correct.
It really, kind of gave me a kick in the ass to like, you need to write this book now. You need to write this book now. So I am in the process of writing this book, currently untitled, but it's in the works.
Okay. So where can the people find you? Talk a little bit about where they can find you.
Sure. So the easiest way to find me is at papercraftmiracles.com. PAPERCRAFT, miracles with an S at the end. And you could just Google my name because you'll find me. You'll be surprised. I have a lot. My kids are like, "Mom, how do you have 600 pictures of you on Google Images or whatever?" It's hilarious. But I mean, that's what you get when you say yes to everything, right? But so that's the easiest way to find me. You can find me on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me. And I also just released a course called The Art of Business and the Business of Art to teach other artists and creatives how to start and run their own businesses that actually support them and are sustainable for their lifestyles. And it has a whole component about overcoming imposter syndrome and starving artist mentality, and really learning to view your own time as something that is the most valuable resource you have.
Well, we're coming to the end. So 1 minute, what you want to tell to the audience?
I want to encourage the audience to go after that thing that you think about in the back of your head when you're laying in bed at night saying, someday I want to do this. Today is that day. Even if you only have 5 minutes to do it, take 5 minutes and make a plan on how you're going to start doing that in your life. Because there may not be tomorrow, there may not be retirement, there may not be 3 days from now, but you have 5 minutes today.
Just do it. Well, thank you for being.
Just do it.
Just do it. Yes, we did a Nike commercial, well, this was a wonderful show. To my audience, follow Janna, and she has an incredible story, and this is going to be aired very soon, and we're going to be in touch. I'm going to put all your social medias, and thank you for being here in my show.
Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye. Welcome everybody to the Building Resilience Show. This is a show where we showcase persons that had an incredible story, that had gone through things in their life, but they had thrived. So here we have an incredible guest. Her name is Manette Antill. She's a mom, a grandmom. She's originally from Texas. I'm from Texas too, but she lived a long time in Los Angeles, and today she's in New York with her grandsons. So thank you, Manette, for being here. The mics are yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. You have such an incredible story. I'm privileged to be here.
Well, my story, I decided to do this was because exactly I have learned that you go through things in life, but you don't have to get there. You really, if you could survive things in life, you have to share them, because maybe you will be helping others or you will be inspiring others. And this is the reason why I begin to do this podcast. That's why I want to have people, everybody has a story to tell. So I want to hear your story.
Right. I'll just tell you real quick. I was doing voice work and teaching some young women who were bemoaning that they hadn't found themselves. And they were in their 20s. And I said to them, I've got some bad news and good news. You consider you're not ever going to find yourself, but the good news is you're never going to find yourself. Yourself is growing, changing organism. It's a journey. That you could never imagine. If you could accomplish all the goals and do the things you wanted on your certain timetable and everything, how boring. There's things out there that you never even imagined that are going to create a life you never imagined.
Mm-hmm.
That is your path. I will tell you, when I give talks, it's called the voice. The voice you bring to the world you were meant to change. Mm-hmm. The voice that we were born to bring to the world you were meant to change. And we have so many different ways that we can do that. And often it's these things that keep us from what we think we want that actually create the opportunities and our abilities that we never dreamed we could have, right?
Yeah.
I don't have nearly the dramatic and the powerful story that you do, but I moved around a lot as a child. We moved every 3 or 4 years. And so I had to learn to recreate myself. I had to learn to step out of my comfort zone. I had to learn the new lay of the land. I had to be adaptable.
I love that word, adaptable. We're going to talk about that.
Right. And, I was resilient. I was adaptable. I also, though, sometimes you can learn to meet other people's expectations, mm-hmm. which is also something that I had to learn to overcome, to be myself. Right. And to have the voice that I have. When I was about 4 years old, my mother said to me, Manette, lower your voice. Little Southern girls weren't supposed to have loud, powerful voices. Lower your voice. And so I said, is this low enough, Mother? And this is where my voice went. Now you can hear the difference, can you not? This was the voice that I had for many, many years. I debated, I did music, I did theater, I danced, but this was my voice. When I went to law school, this was my voice. I practiced law with this voice. But when I went into work for corporations, I would be in meetings. I'm going to bring my voice back up. I would be in meetings and I would give an idea. And then a man would say almost the very same thing I just said. And I think that's what I just said. And so there was some misogyny, I think, around. But I learned after I went back to theater, after I left the law, that my voice hadn't served me, right? Because I'd kept it down here and I hadn't learned to make it the full, powerful, resonant voice that it had the capacity to be. Correct. So we often allow life to, in many ways, the way I do with my voice, we allow it to suppress
to silence us. Your voice.
We allow ourselves to be silenced, to be brought down, to protect ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so we don't want to access this voice. We don't want to access our feelings. And so it's a process that we have to learn to open up. And so what actors know is voice work, acting work is body work, because we have to open this body to the present. We have to open the power of who we are and have the strength to be vulnerable. That we don't any longer have to protect ourselves. We can open and connect and allow ourselves to be connected and feel with others. Because it's only that way that we become powerful, full, and effective communicators. Yeah.
You mentioned several things that are interesting, by the way, that I talk always about that. You talk about the adaptability. You talk about the vulnerability, you talk about the resilience, and you talk about the connection. And all of that are connected. For me, what is your thought about that vulnerability? Because this is something that there sometimes people make the mistake that if you are vulnerable, are like you're exposed. What do you think
Right.
about that?
So I don't know if you know the name Brene Brown.
Oh,
Which is
I was thinking in her, and she's from here from Houston. She's from here from Houston.
Yeah,
I was thinking
Houston,
with her.
right?
Yeah, I love her, by the way.
Right. She gives a whole talk on the power of vulnerability.
I did a talk show talking about her because when I heard her speech and her books, it's so powerful. It's really powerful.
Because when we're not vulnerable, we're protected. And when we're protected, we're shut down. When we're protected, we are keeping ourselves from that connection. We pull in our power, right? It's when we're willing to be vulnerable that we can actually be open and willing to take the steps and the action outside our comfort zone, outside of the place we're protected. We're able to actually reach in and touch others because we're open to that experience.
There's where
Whatever
you
it
get,
is.
and there's where the connection comes. You know, I always mention something because I did my career in the corporate world and with several cultures, working with several cultures. And one of the things that really always made connection was being human being. So I tell the people today, if you want to be a good leader, be human. And you know, sometimes people think that if you are like a autocrat leader, that can work, but that the real secret sauce is connecting with the people, being people. What do you think about that?
I will tell you, one of the voice greats that I study, his name is Arthur Lesac. And he talks about yawn versus brawn, the power of breath and yawn and reach. When we reach, right? Then we have the strength. When we're here, and it's even when I tell people, like, if you do like this and you stretch, there's tension here, there's tension here, you know, the strength, the brawn, but when you open and reach, right? You actually have a further reach. You have an opening. There's a strength that comes from the release, right? And it's when we brace that we lose power because it's protective, right?
Wow. How was that combination? Because I'm thinking a lawyer, an attorney normally is, you know, factual, you know, and then but there is the artist in yourself. So how you make that combination? How, you know?
Well, I will tell you, I did leave the law because I felt it limited me. And, you know, one of the things, it's called an adversary system because it's a kind of a constant battle. And there are ways in which different people practice law, but there are ways in which to come to a solution, to come together to deal with a problem can be so much more effective than saying it has to be my way, right? And that was actually more the case when I was practicing law. There are, you know, dispute resolution and things like that try to lead people into these joint journeys to find solutions as opposed to the fighting. But also, particularly if you're a trial lawyer, you have to connect with that jury. You have to be able to tell a story that touches their hearts. You can't just come through this.
There's where the artist comes when you're trying to connect with them.
Right. And in the same way with a negotiation, if you come slamming into people, they're going to resist you. Right.
Yeah.
Unless there's a little bit of this open mutual work and ability to open to someone else's ideas. You come in with your own, but if you can open to someone else's ideas, you can create an opportunity that they may be more open to yours. Right.
There is something that I always ask to the people that I interview is, how is the faith in your world? How has been the faith part of your journey?
I will tell you that even from being a very young child, I've been a seeker in faith.
Okay.
I will share with you that it's not always been an easy journey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm someone that asks questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm someone who, I wouldn't say is skeptical, but who wants to understand. And often when we respond to children and teach them about faith in the same way, it's like, this is it. It's got to be like this. And we need to know that each person's journey and path to faith, to deity, to blessing is different. I will tell you, my mother, actually, after my father died at 72, she went back and became a lay chaplain.
Oh, wow.
Whether she was a businesswoman, she became a lay chaplain. And one of the things that she was saying, she said, you know, faith is like there's mountains and there's different paths up the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
You have to find your own path.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it crosses other paths. Sometimes it diverts as we confront problems that our faith is not answering at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's just like the same journey of life. Journey of faith is a constant searching for that connection and a deeper level of connection, as we may explore different paths ourselves or through others.
And how has been your journey, your particular journey? How has been your particular journey?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I have been had difficulty with my search because I'm also very pulled to, as you said, social justice and compassion and humanity. And often when I've had to confront in the world the horrors that people have visited on each other.
Oh, yeah.
And continue, you know, I'm Jewish, and you sometimes ask how, right? Can a loving deity, a loving God allow this, right? And so at various times of my life, that's been a real problem. That's been a confrontation that's been difficult for me to answer. And so I, just like any other confrontation that I've had to work through in my life in terms of opening doors to understanding, accepting different paths, acknowledging that I don't have the answer, that I've learned that I may never have the answer.
Oh, yeah. That is a journey.
And that's part of my journey, is coping with the questions, coping with the doubts.
Mentioning that you are Jewish, there is a book that for me changed my life. When I was in my captivity, I had the opportunity to read it. It's a guy called Viktor Frankl.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know if you have read that book, but that book really talked to me, because I was in my captivity when I could have the opportunity to read it, and the audience that are hearing this guy wrote that book after he came from the Nazi concentration camp,
from the concentration camp,
and he's the father of the logotherapy, but for him was like that anybody can survive things if you find your purpose. So I'm going to ask you, what is your purpose? What is your why?
My why now,
yeah,
it's changed.
It changed, of course.
Right, is to change. Is, well, one, personally, my why is to continue to grow. and to continue to open myself and become more, and to give, to be able to give what I have the power to give, and to keep finding out what that is, and to take different opportunities to offer that in different ways, right? I lost my train of thought there for a minute, because I think my purpose is to create and empower others to create the change that they can bring, to do the transformation, to bring the transformation, the messages, the insights that they can bring. And I do that by helping them develop their voice, so that the way I serve my purpose to create change, which I try to do with my own communication, is to enable others to have the full power of not just the sound of their voice, but their connection to their own voice and purpose, which they find through actually opening their body and their whole mind and being, is to create in the world others that can bring the transformation that they are here to bring. And I think that changes for all of us as we move forward. There's a story about a rabbi named Zusia, and he was renowned in his time. He was like one of the most renowned rabbis of all of his age. He was dying, and his disciples were around him, and he was crying. And they said, "Rabbi Zusia, why are you crying? You've had this life, this beautiful power. You've accomplished so much." And he said, "But was I Zusia?"
Wow.
And I think that's a journey that I hope I never cease to have.
Wow. 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 Powerful. Well, we're coming to the end, and where the people can find you?
So my company is Your Voice Connection, because that's what our voices are, that we sing our soul through our voice. Our eyes are the windows of the soul, but we sing our voice. We sing our soul through our voice. It's Your Voice Connection. And it's www.yourvoiceconnection.com. And there I have, there's a PDF that kind of explains. I have Connect is Connect with breath, open your body, nurture new habits, right?
My company is Jose Connect, so I go to do the Connect, yes.
And then with that is a little 20-minute video, which just gives you a peek into the physical nature of what I teach, and then opening of the upper body, neck and mouth, neck and head, to have the full powerful breath, so that people can experience a little bit of what it's like to do this work.
Oh, incredible. And coming to the end, in 1 minute, in a nutshell, what you will tell to the audience? What will be your final recommendation to the audience? What you want to say to them?
One, to always take the opportunity to open to experience, open to the other, a willingness to step into someone else's reality, and not to assume yours is the only one. And that we do that through an opening to ourselves, through breath, through body, through presence. Then we can reach out, touch, and both take in and give all we're here to give.
Wow. Well, coming to the end, and the audience that are hearing this, Manette has an incredible journey. She has a powerful way to make your voice to be heard. Sometimes the people, and you mentioned it, that sometimes you lower your voice, and your voice matters, and your story matters. So thank you.
And I will tell you, I'm particularly right now interested in people who want to open, use, and let their voice be heard, to bring the change, the openness, and the connection that our world needs so badly right now.
Today,
It's a time we have to stand up, speak out, and use our voice.
and remember that it's a biblical thing that the word has power.
And the word, right? The creation came from the word.
The word. Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. It was an incredible connection. Thank you, Manette.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
If you're a leader, you need to hear this. Great leadership isn't about having followers. It's about making more leaders. The real measure of leadership isn't about power or position. It's about impact and influence. The best leaders uplift, mentor, and empower others to reach their full potential. Leadership isn't about control. It's about creating a culture where people feel valued, inspired, and ready to grow. Remember this. If you treat your employees like they make a difference, they will. Join us in transforming leadership into a movement. Watch this video and see the incredible difference it makes when leadership is about building leaders, not followers. What's the best leadership advice you've ever received? Drop it in the comments.